In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the entries to the LEGO World Builder and 4 Bricks Tall phone photography contest. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Anna Batanga, but you might know me as 4 Bricks Tall from toy photography communities and LEGO communities. Today, we're going to be reviewing some of the photos that were entered into the LEGO World Builder and 4 Bricks Tall phone photography challenge way back in April. The idea for this challenge was to get people to shoot LEGO photos using just their phones and some of the tips that I had written up on my blog, How to Take Better Photos of Toys with a Phone. Today I'm joined by some of my friends, Foolish Bricks and Free the Geekman, otherwise known to me in real life as Danny and John. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello. Good, thanks.
Hi, Andy. We're good.
That's great. So before we get into reviewing these photos, I wanted to show these people who exactly is giving feedback on these photos. Who are these chumps? So Danny, let's start with you. When did you start doing Lego photography?
Oh, that's, I think about 9 years ago, like 2013. That's when I first started photographing my Lego. I am, normally I don't do anything with Lego. I am an MD, but when I get back home, that's how I relax. So I started out with an old camera and I learned myself how to shoot my photos, and they weren't always like this. In the beginning, it was well, I didn't even know where to find the on button on a camera. But over the years, I learned by looking to all kinds of examples and such, and in the end, I think I've got a pretty good grasp of how to photograph Lego, and especially I look towards the story in a photo.
Yeah, I
So.
really noticed that in your photography. And you're one of my early heroes because I was always shooting these really boring portraits. And I was like, I need to start building just like Danny and start developing stories just like Danny. So you're one
Oh,
of my heroes.
oh, thank you.
And John, you started much later than we did. I know Foolish Bricks from Twitter from 2013 or maybe even earlier, like way before Instagram. But you and I met on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. I did start later. I started 2016, 2017, but I was very sporadic and just messing about with my phone when I was out and about with a few minifigures in my pocket. But yeah, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've started to learn how to use an actual mirrorless camera, not just my phone. And yeah, following along the community in Brick Central to try and learn how to get better.
Yeah, and so both of you guys are part of the Brick Central team, or used to be part of the Brick Central team with me. And of course, we've been making a big effort and trying to educate people on how to take phone photos and any regular kind of Lego photos. So let's get into the critique. Well, actually, before we get into the critique, let's show some of our horrible phone photos. Well, at least for me, I started with a phone. And like I was telling you earlier, Danny, and I had been stuck
Mm,
on this kind of portrait work, but this is really typical Lego phone photography that I was doing. I thought this was so awesome because of all the colors, but look at the posing. And this was one of my masterpieces. Got actually gone into the forest and looked for scale. And I think this is one of yours, Danny,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. This, well, I don't even know what to say about it. I really like this one, by the way, when I shot it. But I was just putting the pictures some of the minifigures somewhere and then shooting the pictures, trying to find the story like here. But technically, it was a disaster, to be honest, in some pictures.
And
I
this is
think
some
you
of
left
yours,
out
right,
the
John?
worst one.
Yeah, no, I left out the worst one on purpose because I can't bring
Yeah.
myself to put a photo of flesh hands mixed with yellow heads.
Oh,
By the way, anybody watching this podcast right now, please don't mix. That's like the worst thing you do. It's the most off-putting thing to see. So, John, this is some of your stuff.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, this is one of my earlier ones. This is actually the first photo I took that I thought was good. I think I was quite happy with it at the time. Obviously, it's fairly basic, but at the time I did quite like it. But yeah, that was back when I was shooting with my phone.
yeah, more Star
Um,
Wars
the,
stuff from you, right?
It was all Star Wars and Marvel, and I mean I still shoot a lot of Star Wars and Marvel now because I still love those things, but I do try to mix it up a little bit these days with my own stories and things as well.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
another thing. Like a lot of people start out with recreations of other scenes from movies and stuff, right? And then you kind of create your own stuff. This is one of your later photos, right?
yeah, it was one of the later ones with my phone, I think, still though. Before when I was kind of getting
Hmm.
to the point where I thought I needed to move to a camera, so there's a bit of editing in there. But yeah, that was another one I quite liked, to be honest. Still quite like that one now.
No, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
like it too.
so the point of this showing everybody our early photos is we all start in the same place and it's just practice and knowledge and eventually you'll get to some of those photos that I showed you earlier of Danny's and some of those photos of John's, which are really, really great. So don't worry if you're just starting out, you will get there, but it does take practice and it does take knowledge, okay? So let's get into the photo critique. So this one was Colin Brick's entry, and I think John, this was one of your favorites, right?
Yeah, I like this one. Mainly because it reminded me of when I was shooting outside of my figures, and it did a really good job of making it interesting by having the character look away, which is, I think, something I was never brave enough to do. But yeah, I like it in the fact that, in fact, all these photos are really good at not having reflections on them, and I always find that really difficult as well. So I like that. I like the fact he's looking into the light, and it's just a bit different.
What about you, Danny?
Yeah, yeah, I like the story in this one. At least it triggers me to find my own story. For example, the fact that he is not looking through the camera, that says to me that this is a guy who really wants to enjoy the nature he is walking in and just leaves behind the camera. He took it along, but he's there for the nature and not to shoot everything. So, and yeah, and I also like that the photographer went way down. So you're looking up at the minifigure. A lot of people in the beginning shoot from up downwards to the minifigure, like we are looking at them. But this one makes it so that you can really, well, feel some kind of a better connection to the minifigure. So that's I really like this one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it because, like what John was saying before, none of my photos had my minifigure facing away. Like, that
Mm.
didn't even occur to me before. It was always, I almost, I think, have photos of my minifig waving directly at the camera or really basic things like that. I really like this because of the framing, like how he's got that rock up front and that minifig is perched on it so he can get that low angle, like you said. But then we have that
Yeah.
environment of those sticks of trees that aren't so close that they look like they're human-sized trees. They could be that world's trees because they're quite far away and they're quite narrow. I also like that the colors are quite unified. They're all earth tones, including the minifigure. So yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you guys that this was one of my favorite photos of the ones that we selected for critique. And by the way, thank you to everybody who submitted their photos and are allowing us to give feedback in this very public way. This is quite a brave thing to do. I don't think I myself would be able to put myself out there just like that. So thank you so much, Colin Bricks. The next one, I think this was our winner. Behind the
It
brick
was.
with this photo of this guy buying ice cream from an ice cream vendor. I think I had to win you guys over on this selection. And I'll say why. I mean, I've taken photos like this where you're shooting through some kind of brick building and you're so preoccupied with trying to get everything blocked correctly so that there's a story and also get that foreground lit enough so that you can see what's happening in the foreground. I really like the framing of this. Like you can see the ice cream vendor and you could see the line forming behind this kid. The only thing I didn't like was completely extra to the photo, which was this very distracting frame and watermark, which probably that's something I would stay away from as a beginner. You could probably leave a watermark, but to add an extra frame really changes kind of how you view things. What do you guys think? Danny?
Yeah, I agree completely on the watermark thing because I started out with large watermarks myself, but during the years they become very much smaller because they can be distracting. Um, in the beginning, you had to win me over. Yes, that's true. but I do appreciate the technical difficulty in this picture. I would not have been able to do this. First of all, I didn't shoot on a phone, by the way. So I had these large lenses, and I couldn't do this. The lenses were too large, and I didn't know how to crop and such. The one small thing in the story was more, why is this kid looking at the vendor instead of looking so happy at his ice cream? So, but that's such a small thing. It is a really good picture, technically speaking. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have loads to add to what you guys have said, but I did want to just say that I think you mentioned the framing was really good. I think one thing in the technical achievement here is partly because obviously phone cameras are a very wide angle, and this is a really clever way of narrowing what you're looking at, by having that really up close brick built frame. Really helps you focus in on the happy child and his ice cream. So yeah, it is definitely a good one.
I'll add that another thing that most beginner phone photographers do, or just any beginner photographer does, is they don't put this amount of subjects. You know, most people do what I did with my minifigure. It's literally just the one Lego minifigure and then an expanse of natural environment. So this was harder than I think than most do whenever they're starting out. So yeah, really good job with Behind the Brick. I think that this was the winner, right? I'm pretty sure this was the winner.
It was.
And I think maybe the only other thing that we wanted to say was maybe just change the position of that ice cream just a little bit so we can see a little bit of the face. I'm not sure if it was tilt or pan. No, it's roll. So just roll tiny bit. Although I do have to disagree with you, Danny. I think he got free ice cream. That's why he's smiling.
Yeah, I think he's smiling at the nice person that just gave him an ice cream. So yeah, I'm fine with where he's looking, but yeah, just move it a tiny bit, a millimeter, 2 millimeters, and it would have been perfect.
But really, really good shot.
Yeah,
it is.
Okay, so here's the next shot. I think this is by Essie Ashburn. I have to check that username again, but I'll put him up on the photos later. I like this shot, first of all, and this is something that always surprises me too when I react to Lego photography, is when I see an interesting subject. And for me, it might not be this person with the apple. It's because she used the stairs as a fence. And that's a different part of photography where you're using something in a surprising way, and that becomes the interesting part of the photo. So I like that there's this fence, and I like the story. I mean, she's so close up to this child who's climbing this fence with these tiny short legs. I thought this was really, really pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you have some input about that, Danny?
Well, I have to agree with you. The MPU on the stair. I didn't see the stairs until you mentioned it. So that was pretty clever indeed. I don't have too much to add to this. What I also like is the lighting. It is beginning or the end of the day, so not this really bright lights from up above. So even the timing was pretty good.
Yeah.
What I may, but I'm not really sure. But I may have wanted to see another picture where maybe the horse was more in focus.
Right, because in this photo,
just to see how it would look.
Yeah, the apple is the most in focus. And I'm not sure if that was the whole story or not. Just constructively, I might have pulled back a little bit and not cut off the top of the head of that minifigure. And maybe, it's probably out of the control of a phone because, like I said, there are some technical limitations when you're using a phone. And one of them is the dynamic range. They're not going to be able to handle brightness and darkness in one scene very well. I mean, all cameras have problems with that, but especially phone cameras with their smaller sensors. So that the background is quite blown out. But otherwise, it's a really nice photo. I'm pretty sure on a different kind of day, she would have had blue skies, and that would have changed the photo a bit, I think. But yeah, good shot.
Yeah.
This one is by Lego Jira. And so Okay, I have to say that the thing that popped out to me was obviously that baby skull head. And that's another thing about Lego photography is sometimes it's the element, the novelty of it that catches your attention. And that was kind of the point here for me. But also there was a story that for a beginner or, not shooting as long as we are, that's a difficult thing to kind of conceptualize and create. John, did you like one of these? You liked this one early on, right?
I did. Yeah, I like partly because I'm self-indulgent like this. It reminds me of some of my early photos as well. And just the way the lighting is, and even the character looking straight down the camera. I did that a lot as well. It's not just that though. Obviously, I like the story, the idea of growing the skeleton, and yeah, I think maybe some of it is that part usage. I really do want. I haven't got that little skeleton head yet, and I really need that part. Yeah, no, yeah, it's got a lot of different elements in. It's a bit different from all the other entries. I do like the kind of the nighttime style lighting, and it's a funny little, kind of a funny little vignette, isn't it, of what's happening with the skeleton.
Yeah, I also
I
like
always
it.
wonder.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering who he was looking at. So, but you did that too a lot, John, making the minifigures look into the camera. It always gives me the question at who is he looking at? Who shot this picture? Is this something he did himself, or is there another one there, another person? Yeah.
Right. It does look like one of those farmer photos where they're, where they grow like this ginormous pumpkin, right? Or something
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
And they're posing with that
Yeah.
produce that they've grown. I also really like this
Yeah.
photo, and it is different from the others because this is shot inside. He's using his own lighting. He's using that foreground element and all of these other brick built elements to create this scene. And then he's introduced just a little bit of natural element, which is that gravel. So yeah, I think he put together this photo really well. And I do agree with you, John. I do like this darker kind of nighttime look.
Yeah.
Okay, so this photo, I'm going to say that these are difficult photos to shoot because one, he already put a large Lego model behind him, but that also creates a lot of strong lines. I did like that they added that suitcase there in the foreground, but perhaps there's just a bit too much foreground. Otherwise, I like the story. You can tell what's happening. This busy guy going into the bus, into the city, probably. I did make a tiny correction here, and I'm just going to show it real quickly, just to show that changing your camera tilt or pan or roll, whatever it is, I always mess that up, a little bit can really help your photo. So here we've got a more straight horizon. We've got the suitcase in the front, a bit cropped off, but that's fine because another thing you can improve your photography when using foreground elements is you don't have to show the whole thing all the time. You can just show a part of it and our brains will kind of complete the story. Did you guys have something to add about this?
I was going to say I like the fact that they've clearly tried to follow the tips. They've tried to bring a foreground element in. They've tried to tell a story. So that they've got the guy on the phone while he's walking to the bus. I like that they've tried it, and I think the edit you made there is what I was thinking. If you lose the bottom fifth of the photograph, you kind of get that foreground element slightly cropped, makes a big difference. It's not so distracting, but yeah, no, I think it's a really good effort.
Yeah. I have to agree with both of you. I don't have anything more to add, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so just this is tough to do with a phone, I have to say. I mean, I shot with a phone for, I don't know, a year or 2 years, and getting down this low and then lining up the lines so that they're straight is tough. And you have to put your face to the ground for one thing, and then just tapping on the screen or pressing the button changes the tilt of the phone so that everything can be skewed. So you really have to kind of watch out for that. You have to pay a lot more attention when you're using a phone because it's hard to line things up, especially with Lego, and Lego has so many lines. But they can be your guiding lines. So just watch out for that. Look at your Lego, follow those lines.
I'm also going to say one more thing, just that another one that's really nicely lit with no reflections on the minifigure. It's easy to forget how hard that can be sometimes.
No, that's true. The angle of light, this is very soft light. There's not a lot of hard edges to the shadows. So yeah, he got the lighting really really well done. So, and no distracting reflections. Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually really like that red telephone. It does make the photo pop a bit too.
Yeah.
Okay, this photo of a baby in a stroller with the against a natural backdrop. I did like the color combinations here. There, it's red, green, and yellow, and I think that was really strong. I also kind of really like just the focus on this map. You know, you can already tell like this baby is being shown this map and maybe where they're going. I do have some feedback about scale, which is probably something that a lot of us phone photographers don't really get, especially in the beginning, is that we're not very aware of, you know, how things look compared to a minifigure. So those flowers are gigantic. You know that we're in a human world, right?
Well,
Yeah.
maybe I disagree in this particular photo because it also, you could see this dad is showing the world to his little baby. And to the little baby, the world is large and big and gigantic. So that's how I interpreted the picture of the flowers. I don't think that is what the photographer meant, but that is what you could get out of the picture. So I actually thought it added to the story to have these larger flowers in there.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting. John, you have something to add?
yeah,
Yeah, just a bit like the photo with the apple on the horse. I like the fact that this one, the kind of the primary focus isn't on a minifigure. It's on the map or the picture, which is again a bit of a brave thing to do, which I probably wouldn't have done when I was starting out. I think it's you know it makes it a bit different and stand out from other photos you see a lot of. Um, and yeah, it's just a fun thing where you think, is he actually going to the Shire, or is he just is it just so happens it says the Shire and he's showing his baby his favorite book, or I don't know. It just makes me think what's
yeah.
going on there in a good way. Like it's an ambiguous story, but I quite like that.
No, yeah, I actually agree on just thinking about myself going back as a beginner. I might have even not gotten this angle and been smart enough to get the Shire in focus. You know, I probably would have been obsessed
Oh,
with trying to get the baby's head in focus or something. But this is a much stronger
mm,
story to have it focused on that
mm,
map and to have the subjects itself, or well, the minifigures out of focus and acting as the foreground element gives this a lot more depth. I'm always really wary about shooting in grass, only because my own experiences, you know, grass to me always or look like really sharp blades. But yeah, I really like the photos. I love the color combination, and I like the story. These are a lot of things that I would not have been able to do when I was beginning.
yeah. And certainly the red color. I always have had trouble with the red
Mm.
colors in the beginning at least. So that's a difficult color to shoot. I
Yeah,
think it's easy to overpower the whole picture, and I think
that's
that's
true.
done
Yeah, and he's got it
nicely.
like in the corners. This is really well done. I like
Yeah,
it. Yeah, smart.
yeah.
And this is our last photo by Toy Story Yana. I also really like this photo, but I think I'll lead with you, Dan. And what do you two think?
Now, this was one of my favorites. Honestly, this is such a relaxing, just a relaxing picture. I think this guy is driving away from the city, hiding into the nature. Look at this smile. He's just so happy. So the blue skies up there. I like the uh, how do you call it? The framing of the picture. So it's really set up nicely. I think they really used the golden. I don't know the English term. We call it the gulden snede in the Netherlands.
What is
But
it? Like the ratio?
yeah, the lines.
Oh, the
Oops,
grid, the
it's on
rule of
2/3.
thirds.
That's the one, the rule of thirds. I'm sorry. Can you cut this out, Anna? The rule of thirds on this one,
I won't cut it out. You know
in
why?
this
Because
one.
that's actually a rule we should not be like promoting so much because people tend to stick to that. What about you,
Yeah,
John?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Danny's covered a lot of what I thought about it, but yeah, it makes me just smile. It looks like a nice day off for this guy. He's enjoying his time off work or his time away from whatever else he normally does. Yeah, good framing with the tree and the city, which is a really interesting framing device as well, because the tree is kind of the same size as the tower blocks in the background, just in camera, which is just interesting. And yeah, the lighting again is lovely blue sky. Really looks like it's quite a sunny day, but again, I'm repeating myself just because I have so many problems with this. But no reflections on that minifigure's face. It's really good.
Right. The only thing I'll
Well,
add is that even that little bit of the foreground there is impresses me because I've never honestly up until like maybe 3 years into shooting, 4 years into shooting, I never put anything in the foreground. So I mean, even
yeah.
these small touches, it might be a little bit too much. I might just crop off a little bit, maybe a finger or two fingers off the bottom to frame it a bit better, but yeah, I really like this photo a lot. And like you said, it feels like an escape from the city. Although, don't drive with a guitar on your lap if you're on a motorcycle, people. Okay, that's really dangerous.
If I was going to be super picky, I would like the guitar to be the other way, on the other side of the face, so it's not obscuring his face so much. But that's really nitpicking. I really do like the photo.
Yeah, and I think this was our runner-up. And maybe we had problems trying to decide between this one and the other one. And I think the other one by behind the brick photo, I think, can't remember the exact username. That one out because it was more technically difficult because it had a lot of
Exactly.
bricks, a lot of framing, and this is more like what we were saying in the beginning, where we'll just shoot our minifigure in an environment. But this is really good. I mean, it's also really well done. And that bright blue sky behind it isolates that minifigure really well. Okay. So
Yeah, and they also, oh yeah,
good.
no, that's okay. They also cleverly use the negative space, and that's what I wanted to say about this one, because there is a lot of emptiness in this picture too, and that's used nicely. While many beginning photographers, me included, just want to fill up the frame, fill it up, fill it up, fill it up, and it's nice to leave things out. So,
That's really
but it's
that's absolutely true. So that's it. We have reviewed several of those photos. Overall, I think, like I said at the beginning, they did really, really well adding negative space, adding foreground elements, telling stories, avoiding reflections, creating separation, and all of these things I think we all sucked at in the very beginning. So, I mean, but what did you guys think about all of these entries?
they really surprised me. Yeah, John, you.
I was going to say, yeah, that surprised me, and again, it just made me wish that I'd looked for tips and things earlier on when I first started, the way these people clearly haven't, and trying to learn early on in their time with this hobby.
Yeah, so I'm really actually really happy to see a couple of these photographers have joined Brick Central. And if you don't know Brick Central, that's a Lego toy photography community. It's really big and really, we've got activities all year round. We run themes, we run contests, we run challenges on our Discord. And I think Toy Story Yana and Behind the Brick, our two top winners, have joined the community and become really active there. So it's really cool to see them pushing themselves and actually winning some of these challenges. It's really fun to see. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do this again, right, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, so we'll
sure.
find a way. We're gonna get together, think of a challenge, and find ways for the rest of the community to come join in. And yeah, we'll post some information about that soon. So thank you so much, Foolish Bricks, Free the Geekman, Danny, and John. You can find Foolish Bricks and Free the Geekman on Instagram. Those are their handles. Foolish Bricks has his own website. What's your website?
Yeah, foolishbricks.com.
And you should check that out because he's got a lot of information about photography as well. He's an educator just like me. And Free the Geekman, you've got your own blog too, right?
yeah, that's freethegeekman.co.uk.
And
Um,
you do more like other toy photography as well, right?
yeah, that's right. I shoot other toys apart from Lego, and I mainly do reviews and kind of photo studies on some of the toys I buy.
Yeah, so you should check that out. If, Lego's not your thing, it's not for everybody. John's got you covered with other toy photography stuff. More like action figures, right?
Yeah, way too many action figures. Yeah.
Too many action figures. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time, okay? Ciao.
Okay, see you next
Bye.
time. Bye bye.
So that was our episode of the reviews of these entries to the phone challenge, and we hope that we're going to create another critique with these guys soon. Stay tuned for that information. I'll see you next time.